Nike's motto is, just do it. But God has a word for us, just don't do it. I'm getting pretty used to the craziness in the world. People who can't define woman, people who can't define what a man is, people who believe a 29-year-old male who identifies as a female should be able to battle against and compete against a 13-year-old skateboarder and win. And it'd be okay. Or for the NCAA to consider that famous controversial swimmer to become Woman of the Year or Woman Athlete of the Year. I don't know which it is. The grass is still green, the sky is still blue, and we Christians have enough craziness on our own ground and camp. When you're in Florida, if you watch some of the Christian TV programs, some of the ministers, you will discover some weird, outlandish, and outright unscriptural practices and statements made. It's some of the weirdest things I've ever seen. I've seen there. But one thing that occurred this morning, I was on Facebook and I noticed a person had thrown away their ordination papers because, well, they couldn't get a church. And so they threw them away. I read a little more on that person's Facebook page and discovered they weren't sure whether the earth was flat or round. Also, they had no doubt that there was no way that we ever landed on the moon. I started wondering, well, why wouldn't a church hire a person who believes the earth is flat and we've never landed on the moon? Craziness. What a violation of a person's rights. Now, I don't want to sound like an academic elite, but this passage came to me. The passage that I'm referring to as just don't do it. Paul said to Timothy in chapter 2, it's 2 Timothy chapter 2 in verse 23, don't have anything to do with foolish and stupid arguments, because they produce quarrels. When I read that, I thought cable TV would be out of business. There is no way they could operate. They thrive on controversy, argument, hatred. Let's get those people, left, right, moderates, whoever. Let's get them. So as I was reading on that gentleman's Facebook, I thought, well, I'm going to say something. I've got to say that I believe the earth is round, and Isaiah even refers to God sits above the circle of the earth. But then I thought how I'm going to argue about the moon, landing on the moon. There's no way I can convince someone who doesn't believe we landed on the moon that we did land on the moon. And besides, what does it matter? How is my convincing him or not convincing him going to mean anything in the world? And so I did what everyone enjoys receiving on Facebook. I just corrected his grammar. God says about foolish arguments, stupid arguments, just don't do it. It's just not worth it. Have a blessed Saturday. To learn more, go to jamesdallen.com. That's jamesdallen.com. Or subscribe to the podcast, Overflowing Hope, at Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast network.